Hey there, good morning everybody, and welcome back to Tropics Talk. Gulf Coast meteorologist Jim Dickey with you here. Now, let's take an in-depth dive across the tropical Atlantic, shall we? We, of course, have our two hurricanes still out there in the Atlantic, at least as of this recording. By the time you're watching this, Humberto will have likely fallen apart. But still, as we look at the satellite presentation this morning, Humberto and Imelda, both east of the U.S., both swirling off to the east. Humberto is taking on more of a non-tropical look on the satellite presentation now. As you look, you can barely even make out where the center of circulation is, buried under this broader cloud cover. In fact, as they zoom out, there is a front now that's sort of overtaking Humberto. It's taking on more of that comma shape on the satellite. This appears to be quickly transitioning into a non-tropical type low, more of a nor'easter type low. That transition will continue through the day today as it tracks further to the north and east, and we'll still watch it as sort of that powerful non-tropical low over the North Atlantic going through the next couple of days here. But this name will likely be taken off the board later on here today. Here is Imelda. Still a healthy-looking little hurricane as the 8 o'clock update from the Hurricane Center, just shy of Category 2 intensity, 90-mile-per-hour sustained winds. Moving to the east-northeast pretty quickly now. It's been picked up by that upper-level flow, moving quickly at 21 miles per hour to the east-northeast. After making that hard turn north of the Bahamas yesterday, this is making some fast progress off to the east now. There are your two cones. Again, Humberto likely falls apart later on today. It's why this is a short little cone now for Humberto, whereas Imelda, a little longer on the board. But note, as we zoom in on Imelda's cone, becomes a Category 2 later on today, yes. And right there is Bermuda. We are talking the potential for direct hurricane impacts in Bermuda tonight into early tomorrow morning as it passes by, including 80-plus mile-per-hour winds in gusts, 2 to 4 inches of rainfall, the threat for storm surge flooding too. So hurricane warnings are in effect for Bermuda. Going to be a long night there as Imelda moves through, but at least it is moving quickly. We're talking about a 6 to 12-hour period of time with hurricane to tropical storm conditions as it moves through. By the time we get to 2 a.m. Friday, all the way out here, and it likely too is a non-tropical low at that point in time, being taken off the board. So I don't think it's out of the question by the time we get to Friday morning that there is nothing out there any longer in the Atlantic after what has been a pretty active stretch over the last couple of weeks. And we're in October now. You see where we are on our seasonal curve there on October 1st. Clearly, we're through the most active portion of the season. September tends to be the most active month in a given hurricane season, but still, activity remains fairly high through October, at least to the midpoint of the month. Then you get that fairly sharp drop-off in activity as we work our way into November. And things change as far as where storms tend to form and track as we go from September into October. This is looking at the formation zones, where storms form, where storms track through the month of September. Basically have the entirety of the basin open for business in September, and in particular, we watch the eastern side of the basin. Storms tend to form that come off of Africa, a number of which, as we've seen this year, tend to recurve north into the Atlantic, but some do head more westward towards the Gulf and the Caribbean. Note, though, as you go into October, we basically shut down the eastern side of the basin. That's the big change we see over the next couple of weeks. What we call Cape Verde season, or Cabo Verde season, comes to an end as those easterly waves no longer able to form or to track westward into the central Atlantic. Rather, we watch the Caribbean and the Gulf this time of year, the western Atlantic. Storms tend to form where we hold on to the heat in the Caribbean and then are drawn northward by fronts. In fact, we've actually, here locally in southwest Florida, we've had more hurricane landfalls in the month of October than in the month of September. It's true. It's only a difference of one. But still, it speaks to hurricane season not over just yet. That being said, it is going to turn fairly calm, at least for a couple of days. Once Humberto and Imelda fall apart, there's nothing else out there in the Atlantic right now being tracked for development. You see the Caribbean, the Gulf, mainly clear. There is this complex of storms here in the central Atlantic that is not expected to develop. What we will be watching as we go into next week, a new wave will emerge off of Africa, and that will have a chance in about a week from now to try to come together as it works to the central Atlantic. All indications are, though, that same front that is sort of absorbing Umberto and Imelda, that'll still be out there in the central Atlantic, and this will steer that, whatever forms there, will steer that northward. It becomes more and more difficult as you go through October for any storms to be able to successfully make their way far enough west to impact the United States. So I wouldn't worry about that one there. Again, what we watch for is anything that forms in the Caribbean, the Gulf. No signs, anything out there right now, but of course, we'll be keeping a close eye on that for you as we do work through these first couple of weeks of October 2025. When the next storm forms, if the next storm forms, next name on the list would be Jerry. We sit here at 9 named storms now. Remember, a typical hurricane season, an average hurricane season in the Atlantic has 14 named storms. So we still got to get 5 more to form to get to even an average season. Like we talked about, still plenty of hurricane season to go, so don't let your guard down just yet. Hey, anything out there, we'll be tracking it for you, so keep it with Gulf Coast News for the latest. I'll be back with another Tropics Talk coming up for you tomorrow morning as we watch Imelda swirl its way through Bermuda. Until then, I'm Gulf Coast meteorologist Jim Dickey.